Hello. Thank you for coming in to our first workshop at BLAXPO. Don't Touch My Hair, powered by Maui Moisture. So everyone who's tuning in person, there's some people tuning in virtually, so we're so happy that you're here. Thank you guys for being here. We're going to be taking up space today at BLAXPO. Over 1,300 beautiful people of color are here registered today, so we want to thank you. And without further ado, I want you guys to enjoy an amazing conversation that we curated by 3 amazing, dope women that will introduce themselves, but they don't really need an introduction. So take it away, ladies.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone. Oh my, look at this. Beautiful people, beautiful faces, beautiful hair. Really quickly, we can all introduce ourselves. You want to start?
Yeah, so good morning. Thank you all for being here on a Saturday morning. Appreciate it. My name is Tara Small. I'm a social activist. I do a lot of things. I'm a daughter of 2 amazing West Indian immigrants, Barbados and Grenada, specifically, just so we know. But I'm just really grateful to be here with all of you, especially with the 2 of you as well. And I'm excited for this conversation.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yodit Michele, also known as Yo-Yo. I'm a hair artist in Montreal, and I'm very excited to be here as well with these 2 beautiful ladies. I'm of African descent, Ethiopian to be exact. And yes, thank you all for being here. Let's get started.
Yes, my name is Arisa Cox. I'm the host and executive producer of Big Brother Canada. I've been in the business for a long time, 22 or 23 years in broadcast media in Canada. Also the daughter of 2 West Indian immigrants, Trinidad and Tobago. And one thing that is so beautiful looking around this room that I feel is that there's not 2 people who have the exact same hairstyle, not 2. That is something that is so special and so unique about the Black experience, about being Black. And our hair connects to our pride and who we are. It's so personal, and it's connected to how we feel about ourselves. There's a lot of cultural baggage, positive and negative, attached to it. And everybody has their own journey. Obviously, everybody. By the way, before we get started, I just want to say I'm going to be speaking specifically to Black women today. Black men, you're invited too. But specifically, I want to just make sure that everybody knows that we're not going to go universal, which you can do in different audiences, but we're going to speak directly to Black women here today, if that's okay with all of y'all. Now, we have different hairstyles up here, and all of us are working women. This session is about hair in the workplace. So I would love to start with a quick summary of each of your hair journeys, and if you can connect it to your experience in the workplace. Do you want to start?
So my hair journey kind of went like this, whereas years ago I was never comfortable. I could never pull this off. I could never walk around like this. So I pretty much toned it down, if that makes sense, yeah. I stick to straight styles. I explored with color, but not necessarily with styles. So I just had straight hair. Also because you kind of want to avoid that attention, oh, let me touch your hair, or you did your hair. It's the obvious question. So I just stick to simple styles, and now I'm finally able to explore, and I really feel like this is me. This is who I'm meant to be. This is me, and I'm having so much fun with it. So it's a lot of fun. It's more like, for me, I see it as an accessory, and it goes with my mood. I want to switch up my hair. I think about my hair before I even think about my outfits. So I'm just having fun with it now.
We can relate.
Yeah.
Tara?
Yeah, thank you. So for me, my hair journey was not as uphill, or it was a lot of work. It was a lot of unpacking and trying to figure out what Black hair meant to me, where I grew up, and just also I feel like I was like now we're talking more about these conversations. Now we're seeing like, you know, dress codes in schools are being amended, or people are making laws where you can't ban certain hairstyles, specifically locks in workplaces. So we're seeing those conversations surface now. However, I was not grown up in a time when that was the reality. So from a very young age, my mom permed my hair because it was easier to take care of. So for me, I always saw my hair as a task, as something that I had to deal with, something that I had to manage, and something that I also had to hide, but present it in a way that makes white folks comfortable. And that was something at my core that never made sense to me and would always upset me. So it was actually in the it was like, what, 2012, I think. I shaved my head. I was like, I'm over it. I'm starting over fresh. I have breakage. I have perm. I have box dye I have everything but like love in my hair. Wow. So right, that was.
We felt that.
A little gem or
Rippled.
something. But that was something that I was like, I just need to start fresh. And then even in doing that, I felt like I still had like because my hair never felt like it was mine. It felt like it was something society was able to use as a label or as a reason to treat me a certain way. Even in shaving my head, I made sure that I like raised money for cancer so I can like justify it, because I didn't want to be framed as like the black woman who went crazy and needed to shave her head and now she's trying to figure out her life. It was more like, I just want to know what my hair actually looks like, because from the second grade I was perming it. So once I did that and I started growing it out, I still had that feeling of, oh, it's something I have to manage. It's a task. It's never like, I'm excited to do my hair, or let me try this new style. And then that kind of led me to my locks, where I was like, let me have a permanent commitment to myself, to my people, to other black women, and let me show up in spaces with these locks and just have to nurture and love them. And my lock journey has taught me a lot about patience. It's taught me a lot about compassion. It's taught me just how to be kinder to myself and to others. So when you were speaking to how our hair is tied to so much more, that really, really touched me. And I'm just in a place now where I walk into a space and when people, oh, I love your dreads, you love my locks. Let's talk about the difference between dreads and locks. Let's talk about the words that we use when we're looking at our hair, when we're describing our hair. Why are we describing it in a certain way? And I use my locks as a conversation starter. I also use it as a way to look cute because they do look nice. But yeah, so that's a lot of it about my hair journey.
Well, as we know, we could probably all sit down and talk about this for hours, and have and will. It's a conversation that lasts the rest of your life. Now, for me, I was the anomaly in my house because while my father has long locks, my mom has what would once be considered, especially in the West Indies, good hair, right? So she's light-skinned, and she had good hair. She didn't really know how to handle my hair. So it was like me figuring out how to do my own hair. But she braided it dutifully and did amazing. You know, she couldn't do cornrows. She couldn't do a lot of other fancy stuff, but she could braid it. So I wore my hair braided, no extensions, till I was maybe 14. And when you hit 14, remember when you were a teenager? Like, I felt like a kid. I felt like I still had kid hair, you know? And then suddenly her hairstylist was like, well, let me put in a little extension. And I was like, oh. And we tried the extensions, and then I was like, okay. I love my braids. I love it. And then, of course, was the rite of passage of the first relaxer, right? And that was, okay, if you're going into woman, okay, so you get your relaxer, and it was cute, but the amount of maintenance, and I knew I didn't look like myself. I think every woman, not black women, but every woman is always trying to find that hair that perfectly represents who they are at that moment in time. And for me, finding my afro was finding the look that expressed who I was as a person inside. So the inside of me showing up on the outside. I also couldn't take anything that required attention. I'm lazy like that. I was like, oh wait, my hairstylist was like, you know, if you layer your hair, you could probably wear it in an afro. And I never looked back. And I was like, oh, okay, I've arrived. But I also love that part of the Black experience is finding all of these different ways we can express ourselves, which is so beautiful. Like, how many people here have worn braids? Okay, how many people here have had a relaxer? Okay. How many people have had more than 2 hairstyles in their life? That's everyone. If you're listening right now, that's everybody, which is spectacular. And that is something that is so singular to the Black experience, which is so beautiful. So when I went to the Afro, I mean, I was born and raised in Toronto, and way back, I'm older than most of you here. I'm 43, I'm turning 44 in December. And I remember growing up in the time of like Much Music and Chum, and it was like, yes, Namageni, yes, up on the, right? Her full, Ugandan name and her full fro. We came up at the same time. And yeah, I think every generation expects a little more. Every generation feels a little bit more entitled than perhaps their parents did. And where a lot of, I feel like West Indian parents were kind of like, just, do the work, excel, keep your head down, I didn't grow up with that. I grew up with a very healthy sense of self-esteem, luckily. And so I rocked this hair for my first national gig on a reality show a long time ago. So 2001, there was a show called The Lofters, and it was a big deal, and it was national, whatever, and I had my hair. Okay. And then I entered like what I would call the real working world. And I continued to have my hair. And I remember I was a little bitter about my reality experience, I'm not gonna lie. And I was like, I don't wanna be on camera anymore. So I got this job as a creative producer at this station in Ottawa. And sorry, this is a bit of a story, but I've written about this story before, so maybe some of you have heard a little bit about this. So I started as a creative producer, and then I think something happened. The weather and entertainment specialist had to go on mat leave. And they asked me if I wanted to fill in. I'm like, I don't know if I want to do and then they slid the number across the table of what I would get paid, and it was $17,000 more than what I was making. I was 23 years old, and I was like, I guess I'm doing this. Okay, so weirdly, I'm the only Trinidadian on the planet who's really bad at doing weather. I was terrible. I was good at all the other stuff. That was a very, very difficult job, and I was young and whatever, and after 3 months, they do, your probation, you sit down with the executives and they tell you what you need to improve. They're like, you need to get better at weather. I'm like, yeah, no kidding. Give me some training, please. And they're like, and, you've worn your hair straight from time to time, because again, that is something that Black women will do, is switch it up. He didn't say all that. He said, you've worn your hair straight from time to time. We would like you to wear your hair straight on air. And I just remember being like, is this middle-aged white man saying this to me without a hint of irony or a joke or whatever? And I just remember being so taken aback. So, well, I'm not interested. Like, thank you. Thank you for your notes, but I'm not interested. And he said, well, it's not up to you if you would like to keep your job. And I remember in my head, again, born and raised in Toronto, so used to this being a thing. This was the new wave of people actually being who they were. I was shocked. I was angry. I didn't say anything. I left the room and I called my mom, and I was fuming. I remember this conversation. I was just like, I want to sue them. I can't believe who do they think they're da-da-da. And she's like, okay, the Canadian media industry is very small. So maybe you're not going to sue them as a 23-year-old who thinks they've got everything. Maybe you take that energy and you put it into finding a new job. Because if they would ask that of you, this is not the place for you. So while it was their contractual right to say, I changed my hair, and they could do that with anyone on air and often do, oh, we want you to be blonde, or you want you to be, your hair shorter or long, whatever. It is your right to leave if you want. And that was scary to me, but it was also very empowering. But I could do that because I was, 23, 24, no mortgage, no kids, and I could do that. But she's like, this is perfect, because later you can tell this story, but you're still on the come up. So if you leave, you get to say, I leave for a new opportunity. They get to say you leave for a new opportunity, and you can drag them later. So that's what I'm doing right now. No, so what was great about that experience is that I learned, you don't really find out who you are until you're up against it, until you're under pressure and you have to make a choice. And that was a choice I made, and I never looked back. So I never looked at this as some victimhood situation, because I really found out more about who I was and how strong I could be. I ended up with a new job back in Toronto, where I wanted to be, most diverse place I've ever worked in my life, still to this day, had this amazing experience. So I gained a sense of self as opposed to lost a job. That's how I look at it. But so many women are under different kinds of pressure in the workplace, What do you hear about people's experience with their hair?
So I'll tell you my experience. I kind of, before I started doing hair, I worked in environments where there wasn't that many Black people. So I was
A lot of us do.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of just, again, like I said before, I wanted to avoid that conversation. I wanted to avoid the attention. So I just had my hair straight. And I remember one time I had my hair out curly. And I spent the entire day
All day.
so confident and so happy about it. And then my boss walked in and said, "Oh, you look like you put your finger in a socket."
No.
I swear. In a socket. And that confidence that I had the entire day was gone. The next day, my hair was straight. And I never spoke about it, and I didn't speak up about it because I kind of felt like, I'm going to lose my job if I talk back. So I never said anything, and I just kept it moving and just had my hair straight the next day. And then now I could actually do whatever I want with my hair, and no one's going to tell me anything. Whereas before I would, again, tone it down. Now I'm screaming my hair is art and doing all these great things and exploring, and I'm having fun with it. But yeah, that was one experience that I think about often, and now I'm so grateful that I could get away from that.
In my experience, one thing that I've seen in workplaces, and I'm coming from my social activist power dynamic point of view right now, just so everyone knows the tangent we're about to go on. But what I've seen is or heard is a lot of us, we get upset when these things happen. But one thing that both of you shared and that I did as well is we freeze in the moment, because there's still that moment of after all this work, all this visibility or all these conversations, all these alleged intentions that companies are putting out there, or organizations or leaders or companies are putting out there, and then you're still saying things, or you're still looking at me as, again, looking at my hair as something that needs to be dealt with and not embraced. And for me, I know when my first job ever was at McDonald's, and I remember one time I got I got some braids. It was like a half braid, half curly situation. My hair was big and looking cute, and the McDonald's baseball cap that we had to wear was am I supposed to sit on top of that? Because that's not gonna work. So for me, I remember walking in and I was just okay, not to look too far into it, but I was even the hat is telling me that my hair is not made, is not welcome here. And even when I try on hats, or when people are selling hats and stuff, and I'm one, more hats should be silk lined. Let's start there.
Oh, wow.
And two,
Yep.
I have locks. Where is this little dad cap going? I need a big, I need stretch. I need room. And even looking at other things as well, specifically to locks, a lot of hair companies, organizations say we cater to all hair types, or buy our hair tools. And then I look at their hair tools, and it's combs, a hot comb, or a curling iron, and I'm okay, but what about a nice blow dryer for me? Or what about someone needs to reinvent the dryer we sit under? There's so many things that I noticed that it's still clear reminders that my hair, or just me, I'm not welcomed in certain spaces. But when we have those moments where we're faced with it, I always freeze. I'm always the one that I'm gonna tell them about themselves, and how dare you talk to me. But in my experience, when I was working at my cubicle once, and I had a supervisor come up behind me and just tug on one of my locks, and I'm typing an email, and all I feel is a tug, and instantly it's fury. It's pure fury. And then all I hear is, "Now, are these real, or did you buy them?" And then my only response would not have been appropriate for the workplace, so I chose to freeze, because it was that moment of I can't respond to you how I want to and how you should actually be getting responded to. I have to remember I'm in a workplace with white people that's run by a white man, so let me just sit here and be quiet. And in my silence, my supervisor then goes, "Oh, I know how you girls are. You're not gonna tell me anyways." And just scurries off. And I remember I was fuming, and I went to the head of HR about it, and they didn't know what to do. Then they asked me, "Okay, so what do you want us to do? You have ample black, brown, and all type of employees, and you don't have a policy on this, or you don't have an idea, or you don't even have the ability to sit there and tell me that was wrong. So for me, noticing those things are just constant like roadblocks in my career, and constant like just another task on top of like my job duties. And one thing that I've been like thinking about a lot lately is like, I just wonder, like, as Black women, or more specifically as like myself, like the amount of time that we spent having to re-love our hair or love ourselves because of our hair. Like, imagine if we didn't have to take that time, and we could have just already started with exploring our hair and just having fun with it. And we're getting the time cues.
We're getting the time cues. No, but I think that's, I mean, it does relate to racism in one very specific way, in that racism is a time waster. It's just a time waster. It takes time out of it, takes emotional energy. And that's what I feel like, these thoughts, that any kind of thought that you have towards your hair that is anything but love is just a relic of a different time, when the pressure to have straight hair or to adhere to the European standard of beauty was the only thing that was respected, and that was the end goal. And maybe it's different for different people, right? If you have an African background, if you grew up somewhere where Black people were not the minority, you might have a very different relationship with your hair. Like, nobody has the same relationship. But here in North America, I look around and I know that wave is happening. Like, all kinds of different hairstyles we're seeing, and all of these beautiful women are professionals. So we are all working somewhere. We are allowing the people around us to experience our hair, but it doesn't mean that everybody agrees, that everybody has the same level of understanding. Like, some things you think are basic, like don't touch my hair. There are songs about it. The story comes up all the time. How do people not know that?
And I got my hair touched this morning already.
No, you didn't.
I did. And one thing for me, and this, if there's any folks who like work with white people or any white people listening, feel free to take this, but like, your proximity to my Blackness does not ever grant you access to it. And that's one thing that I tell people, but one thing that I notice is the white colleagues that like to, oh, hey, Arisa, so my daughter, right, she goes to school, and her friend's hair is just like, I was just wondering, can I just touch it? Notice how they're already on their way to touching it, and it's like, what am I supposed to say? No, Jan? Like, what am I supposed to say? Because you're already reaching for it. And then if I say no, I already know you have the list. Oh, she's angry. That's why this. Oh, I'm trying to understand. And then it becomes about the white person. Right? I'm just trying to understand because it's so oh, I wish I had your hair. I wish someone once told me they wish they had my skin color because I have the perfect tan. And I asked them if they wanted the systemic racism that came along with it. They got real quiet because if you want to talk about it, then let's actually talk about it. But white people just think that we are in their circle, and suddenly their proximity to us grants them access to us, because then when we're around, suddenly Google doesn't exist, right? So if you want to ask someone, how do you get your hair locked? Why would I ask Google when I can ask Tara? Because what is internalized in them, that Tara is there to make me comfortable as a white person, right? The Black people are there to make me comfortable. The Black people have to teach me about them so I feel comfortable, right? Because it's my world. So those conversations are still like present and still happening. And I'm the type of person that will challenge them when I don't freeze, of course, because I am still human. But that's one thing that I really think is like important to note. And especially like being someone and being a woman that has locks, where I'm seeing more and more, but there's still a lot of women that like don't have locks. Fine, not a problem. But even that, I'm in the Black community. I'm still an outcast sometimes. I'm still the outcast because they want to. Oh, I love your locks, and again, it's the same thing. I love you, sis, but I don't know if you just came from the bathroom. I don't know if you just ate something. I don't know if you just touched a dirty doorknob and now you want to touch my hair. And again, just because you're close to me, just because you know me, does not mean that it's ever, ever, ever okay. Because what it happens to, at least to me every time, is when someone asks me to touch my hair or reaches to it, I just feel like all this work that has been done
disappears.
Erased.
Yeah. How do you feel if things have changed over the year, just in your experience, what you've seen in terms of reflecting your own hair journey with what you see out in the world?
Um, I think people are starting to be more comfortable, and also having, you know, the books out there for kids, the TV shows, the kids are able to see themselves. So I believe it's starting from there. So now when they're adults, they're going to be even more confident. They're going to be even more proud of their hair. So I think we're getting.
But in a way, it kind of feels like it's one step forward, two steps back. I don't know. I feel like it takes a long time, and it will take a long time because, as you experienced, it's all around. It's not like, oh, this was 5 years ago. It's like,
It's still happening.
yeah, it's still happening.
It's still happening. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Now, I just want to take it to we don't have very much time, but I just want to take it to a very practical place, because if you are working in a space with a lot of other Black people, Black women, these conversations don't have to happen, and they don't, right? They can, but they don't often. But if you are working in a space where you are, you know, I'm number one. No, stop, Beyonce, get out of here. But if you're working in a place where you're the only one or one of a few, and you feel that pressure, unspoken or not, whether someone's reaching out to touch your hair or whether they're asking you all about it, even if they're not doing that, I feel like there is this unspoken pressure to look professional, what once was considered professional. How do women, going forward, not allow that to be on the table? Because I almost feel like when you start at a job, you set the tone for what you will and won't abide by, what you won't accept. And if you present yourself as this is what it is, then in a way you can intimidate people into not thinking that they can do that. They can tell you how to change your hair. But I don't know if that's practical. Like, do you think that's realistic?
I take the opposite approach. I'm a little bit more quiet and more meek and real nice when I start a new job because I want to know what it actually is. I saw the job offer, I saw your website, and you gave me a tour of your office. Now I need to identify what is the culture, and I need to make sure where is it safe, or what are the conversations I'm gonna wanna be a part of, who is someone that I might be able to tap on when I need that extra support on like an internal team. So I come in a little bit more like, I still don't know y'all yet, because the same way I have a 3-month probation, so do you, employer. I'm gonna take the next couple of weeks to figure out what is the best approach for me to be here, and if it's for me not to be here, so be it. But to come in and be like fully like this is who I am, I also recognize that comes with like privilege. Some folks, if you're desperate for that job, then you're going to do what they need to do, right? Or they want you to do. So for me, it's more of a let's figure it out first. And then the other thing is, until like the current like system that is rooted in colonialism, white supremacy, anti-Black racism, anti-Indigenous racism, until all of those things are actually properly addressed and properly dismantled, we're gonna continue to have these conversations. That's my like reality of the situation, is until we actually have the people who are controlling, the people who have all the power and all the money, until they actually do take action on that and make sure that folks are being held accountable, then I think we'll start to see the real change. But culturally, yeah, the conversation is changing. But if you still don't have a policy on if someone comes up to you and like touches your hair, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, but listen, what I envision and what I hope for Black women, Black men, Black people going forward in any space that you work is that we allow ourselves to be human. So you can know all the things and still go through feelings that even if you wish you didn't have these feelings, you still have. But I envision a world where everyone just feels free to have the hair that they want, because I also don't want to vilify anyone who has straight hairstyle, who wants a straight hairstyle. Like I just envision a world where we don't spend 1 second thinking about anyone else's experience and we only center ourselves, because I think that's something you were speaking to. People are so used to being centered in the world, and we have to center ourselves. And that means that's a lot of self-love work, and that's loving the people around you who need to see it, who need to hear it, and then really infusing that in the next generation, whether you have kids or not. Really making sure that the kids on the come up love themselves and love their hair. And I'm getting the wrap up. And I feel like we
Yes.
didn't even start. Oh, was
Right.
that the warm up? Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's time. So thank you guys so much for this conversation.
Thank you for having us.
Super.